This week on Capital Sunday, Benazir Bhutto assassinated.
Those who committed this crime must be brought to justice.
So what happens next in the troubled land of Pakistan? And how will reaction to her death affect us here and around the world? The former High Commissioner of Pakistan to Great Britain, Ambassador Akbar Ahmad, is our guest. The candidates for president scramble in the final 5 days of the Iowa campaign. We look back at the race for the White House and ahead to 2008 with two award-winning correspondents. And is the issue redefining the campaign and Americans' lives as well? The economy. Will more cash register bells be ringing in the ears of businesses in 2008? And what's next for the subprime mortgage crisis and your neighborhood? From the WJLA Broadcast Center in Arlington, Virginia, I'm Leon Harris. Well, by all accounts, she knew the risks, she took precautions, but Benazir Bhutto did not stop her campaign for change in her native Pakistan, and despite repeated threats against her life, she went on. The intrepid woman who served 2 terms as Pakistan's prime minister and was vying for a 3rd term was killed Thursday following a campaign rally in the Pakistan city of Rawalpindi. Officials say that her attackers struck as Bhutto waved to supporters from the sunroof of her armored vehicle. The word is now that she ducked, and when his gunshots missed her, he blew himself up, and officials say that blast knocked Bhutto's head into the sunroof latch, fracturing her skull. 20 more people were killed in that suicide bombing and dozens more in subsequent violence. Today, some 3 days of mourning for Benazir Bhutto are at an end in Pakistan, but many questions remain. Here to discuss those questions with us, former Ambassador Akbar Ahmad of American University, and Arsalan Iftikhar, contributing editor for Islamica magazine. Forgive me for that. Welcome to both of you. Always good to have you with us. Sorry it's under these circumstances. But, Dr. Ahmad, I was struck by something I heard this week. Someone I heard out there say that this assassination is on a par with that of the Kennedy assassination here in the U.S. Is that how you could see this?
Leon, I thought that immediately, because it's not just the fact that a major political figure has been assassinated, it's that a larger-than-life figure has. Kennedy was loved, Kennedy was hated, he was controversial. Benazir was exactly like that. Both were charismatic, tremendous charm, very literate, very articulate figures, very attractive figures, and loved by the media, hated by the media, but loved by the media also. And suddenly there's a void when they're gone. And that's what happens when Benazir Bhutto dies. All of Pakistan is now in shock, in mourning. Even those who did not necessarily support her, even her critics, they feel that this is a major loss for the country.
Well, it's also a loss for the region. And there's so many questions now. Let's begin to try to address some of those. Arsalan, what happens now with the elections, first of all? Let's start with that, because there's a big question about whether or not the elections that were scheduled for January 8th are going to go on. But now you've got one candidate, this charismatic candidate who has now been assassinated. Another one, the former Prime Minister, Nawaz Sharif, is now saying that his party is going to pull out. How is any election going to be held that's going to be seen as legitimate by the people?
Well, I think the first thing to understand is the central point to all of this is that General Pervez Musharraf is on his last political leg. He is basically, this assassination has essentially held him up into a corner with no friends remaining. And I think that that's the key here. I hope and I'm hopeful that this will galvanize the grassroots and the elite activists of Pakistan, the lawyers, the judges, the doctors, the human rights activists, to stand up and ensure a seamless transition to a democracy. Now,
do you have any reason to believe they will?
Well, we were hopeful a few months ago when the lawyers and judges of Pakistan took to the streets in response to General Musharraf's sacking of the Pakistani Supreme Court Chief Justice. And so it was the first time in Pakistan's history that we'd seen such a consolidated effort by members of the intelligentsia and the tangible middle class in Pakistan. And so, you know, it is a silver lining in a very, very dark day for Pakistan.
You, Dr. Ahmed, knew Benazir Bhutto. You and your wife had a relationship.
Yes, they were at school together, a convent school, Catholic school, Jesus and Mary, up in the hills of Pakistan. And it produced some remarkable girls from that convent. Many went on to become leaders of Pakistan, like Benazir Bhutto.
Well, then you can perhaps be the best person to tell us this then. If she was the perfect person to bridge that chasm that was developing there on the political scene in your country, where is the next Benazir Bhutto? Is there another person out there who can step forward and do it in time to heal the breach?
Leon, again, these are great questions. This is like Kennedy. Where's the next Kennedy, as it were? And it's very, very difficult to produce these charismatic, larger-than-life figures. The point is that Benazir Bhutto was not just Benazir Bhutto, a political leader. She symbolized something bigger than herself. She was the first female prime minister of Pakistan, any Muslim country in the world, which meant that for millions and millions of women, not only in the Muslim world, but right across the world. I mean, here in the United States, we haven't had a female president. She became a symbol. And then in Pakistan, she genuinely, I mean, I know that she had many flaws, she wasn't a great administrator, she made many mistakes, but she symbolized modernity, the vision of Pakistan as a modern Muslim nation. She would not compromise on that, and that's why she went back, cost her her life.
But then, based upon what you know about her, did she expect this to happen to her? Because it seems eerie to hear her being quoted now and see her emails now are being revealed. We've seen her in interviews now on various networks where she has said that she believes that if anything happens to her, then President Musharraf is responsible for it.
I think she lived under the shadow of death. I interviewed her last year, and that interview is in my book Journey into Islam, which you reviewed so kindly, Leon. And she kept bringing the theme of Hazrat Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet of Islam. And Hazrat Fatima, in a sense, is the person that Benazir Bhutto identified with. And Fatima survived the Prophet and, as it were, carried the mantle of Islam. So she saw herself as carrying the mantle of Islam. But she was aware that that was a very dangerous position to be in a patriarchal society, in a society dominated by a macho concept of men, not comfortable at all with the idea of a woman political leader like Benazir.
Well, Benazir Bhutto did predict that that something was going to, she seemed to predict, I should say, that something was going to happen to her, and she seemed to be pointing fingers in advance at President Musharraf. Musharraf's government has come out and has said that this was something that was perpetrated by terrorists, namely Al-Qaeda. When you hear all of this, what does it tell you?
Well, you know, what it tells me is that the security that was needed to protect Benazir Bhutto was not provided to her. When prominent Americans, including Senate Foreign Relations Chair Senator Joe Biden, personally implored General Musharraf to provide Bhutto with heavier security in light of the October double suicide bombings during her homecoming rally in Karachi that killed over 140 people, she was not given that. She still defiantly went to the streets in open-air rallies with only one female bodyguard by her side. You know, when I talked to Time magazine yesterday, I said that, in a sense, Benazir kind of knew that she was on a martyrdom mission, that she was willing to give up her life for democracy in Pakistan and for the freedom for all Pakistani people.
How long before Pakistan gets beyond this? Dr. Ahmed.
I think, Leon, Pakistan is a very resilient country. Pakistan has lived from crisis to crisis and managed to survive. Remember, in 1947, when Pakistan was created, people gave it 6 months. And in fact, here we are into the 60th year anniversary of Pakistan. I think it'll survive. It'll be a rocky road. It'll need all the friends that it can get. It'll need the friends from America to reach out in this very difficult time, a time of anguish and grief in Pakistan, to reach out and assure Pakistan that they have friends and encourage them on the path towards democracy.
Well, thanks for the insights. This is not going to be the last time we talk about this. Dr. Ahmed, thank you so much. Arsalan Iftikhar, thank you as well.